The Winds of Winter. Let's start in the north. So it turns out Sansa just didn't trust Jon enough to tell him about the reinforcements, which is sort of... yeah. I mean, I was sort of hoping for something more, but whatever. I'm convinced it was more for dramatic effect than anything else. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a TV show, so... She turns down Littlefinger's creepy advances, making it very apparent that she doesn't have any ulterior motives. Part of me sort of wishes she did, though, you know? I feel it would have been a good direction to take her character, especially after all the bullshit she's been through. Now she's just most likely going to fade in the background at Jon's side while he does his thing as King of the North. Speaking of which, Jon Snow is the new King of the North. The White Wolf, they call him. Man, what a cool title. After a strong rally cry by none other than Lyanna Mormont, this girl steals every scene she's in, by the way. All the houses of the North pledge allegiance to Jon Snow, the last living son of Ned Stark. Or is he? After a quick visit to Bran up beyond the wall, we finally get confirmation of a long-standing fan theory. Jon Snow is not Jon Snow, but instead Jon Targaryen Stark, the son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark. I myself only found out about this theory a week ago. Keep in mind, I only started watching Game of Thrones like 2 months ago. Blasted through all 6 seasons. So I guess I didn't get the full impact of the reveal as other people must have. If anything, to me, someone coming in so late to the game, it actually seemed like the only logical explanation, to be honest. But it's still very cool to see confirmed nonetheless. And the way they revealed it was awesome. The one shot they did from baby Jon to adult Jon, I like that. Now, what does this mean? It's definitely sensitive information. There's a reason Ned Stark never told anyone about it, including his best friend and his wife. Bran is the only one that seems to know at the moment, although that smug look that Peter Baelish gave Sansa at the end really makes me think otherwise. I think given the opportunity, Bran will definitely tell Jon, and a couple of things can happen. One, he can be at a total loss, realizing his whole life has been a lie, and then he can go and be emo some more. Honestly, I think he's over that though. I think it's more likely that, 2, he'll finally be relieved to have that burden of not knowing who his mother is off of his shoulders, and he'll embrace his new Targaryen Stark name and go on to rule not only the North, but all of Westeros. Or 3, he could literally give no fucks and just continue what he's doing. I mean, the whole mystery mother thing was a really big deal for him in the first couple of seasons, but they haven't mentioned it at all ever since Ygritte got into his pants. So maybe it won't even be a big deal to him if you were to find out. I do think it will make for a pretty interesting icebreaker for when Daenerys eventually takes over King's Landing, so they can then team up and take on the White Walkers. I wouldn't mind if they hooked up either. 2 things. 1, we can go all the way back to season 1 and really appreciate Ned Stark's motives behind his actions. He never risked telling Jon nor anyone else the truth for fear that he'd be harmed. He made Jon join the Night's Watch, knowing very well that as soon as he took his vows, his lineage would no longer matter, because he would have revoked his name and all claims that go along with it. So he would be in the clear from any rivals who might feel threatened by him being a Targaryen. That's why Ned only promised to tell Jon about his mother only after he got back from King's Landing. Unfortunately, he didn't plan on getting his head chopped off while he was down there, so what can you do? Another thing, Ned was so honorable that he was willing to throw away said honor to claim a bastard son that wasn't even his. Also, he could just keep his sister's dying wish. That's a whole nother level of honor right there. Second thing I wanted to mention, when we visit Bran beyond the wall and we see Uncle Benjen dropping him off, he mentions that there's magic incorporated into the wall. Magic that doesn't allow him nor any of the other undead to pass. And I love that it's so subtly mentioned, but it answers so many of the questions that I've had. It always bothered me that Jon and the other guys from the Night's Watch would get back to Castle Black after being beyond a wall. Let's take, for example, when they came back from Hardhome, and the White Walkers were nowhere to be found. The most logical thing is that they would follow them, even if they decided to follow them only afterwards. I mean, surely they would have made it to the wall by now, but now it all makes sense. Now what'll be interesting to see is how they managed to bypass that magic that's in the wall, so that they can finally get into Westeros and start their attack. Maybe it has something to do with winter. All in all, it's finally good to see things going in the Stark's favor. We got Arya showing up down at the Riverlands to cross off another name off his list. It won't be long before all the Stark children are together once again, at least the ones that are alive. Arya's scene bugs me a little bit though. I don't get how she had the faceless assassin power with taking the other face off. Did she steal it from the Hall of Faces before she left? Or, I mean, I thought she renounced it, so I don't get it. Does she get to keep the powers? And grinding up Walder Frey's sons into a pie? I swear, I had to look at that pie like 4 times very closely before I realized that there was just a big old toe coming out of there. Look at it. It's gross! Oh yeah, and Sam makes it to the Citadel, whatever. I'm calling it now. He's not going to show up at all during Season 7, the same way that Bran didn't show up at all during Season 5. He'll come back in Season 8, and he's going to be this all-powerful, all-knowing maester. And Sam, not Daenerys, not Jon, Sam will be our one true hero and get rid of the White Walkers. That's a theory if I've ever heard one. King's Landing. I'm so upset. Marjorie died. She was the hottest girl in the show. Why'd she have to go? What pisses me off the most though is that she was doing the whole holy, converted, yes, pray all the time. It was all act. It was all a ruse. She just needed to get out of being captive, and it was apparent that she was going to get back at the High Sparrow and Cersei, and fuck what? Not only that, but she knew Cersei was up to something. Fuck! And those asshole sparrows didn't let her leave the room. Fuck! Tommen was a bitch to the very end, man. He even died like a bitch. I figured Tommen would die, but I didn't expect that. I was shocked, to be honest. So Cersei finally did it. She got rid of all of her enemies, but it cost her her son. When she was looking over Tommen's dead body, it bothered me a little bit because she was so empty. I felt that it went against everything that they've established for her character. A loving, psychotic mother willing to do anything for her children. But I guess that goes to show just how far gone she was. That, and maybe she had come to terms that the prophecy that was told to her when she was a child by that witch was inevitable. So, no more Baratheons left. Well, except for Gendry, but God knows where he's off rolling to. So, who else to step up to the throne but Cersei herself? Jaime gets back to King's Landing just in time to see her sister/lover get crowned. And when she turned to look at him, it really freaked me out. I sincerely believe she would bow or turn her head or just do anything to try to avoid Jaime's line of sight, just out of shame. But no, she just gave him this cold, ruthless, unwavering stare. And at that moment, you realize she just does not give any fucks anymore. Let's go to Essos. Daenerys makes Tyrion Queen's hand, which makes for this nice sort of coming full circle sort of moment, referring to the time he was anointed substitute King's Hand back in like Season 2. But you can see this means a lot more for Tyrion now than it did back then. Back then, he was made King's Hand quite literally because they just had nowhere else to put him. But he cherished the experience either way. He thoroughly enjoyed being the King's Hand. Even when leaving King's Landing was the best option because almost everyone was against him, he still stayed. He loved playing the game just that much. And now that he's been named Queen's Hand, not because of his name or his family or any connections he has, but instead due to his own merits, it means a lot more to him this time around. And I bet you he'll make sure to take full advantage of the title. Hey, remember Varys went on a secret expedition like 2 episodes ago? Well, it turns out he went to Dorne. He forms an alliance with House Tyrell and the Sand Lady, and he teleports back to Meereen just in time to set sail with Daenerys' new fleet heading for King's Landing. Roll credits. This episode was great. I loved it. The music was raw, emotional, and it helped place the mood perfectly for all of the scenes. What I appreciate the most though was the pacing. God, yes. As I mentioned last video, I've had an issue with season finales, with them being all over the place and jumping from one story arc to the next without any sort of warning whatsoever. Here they did a perfect job of spending just enough time with each character's story before moving on to the next. And the way they end it is beautiful, showing our 3 main fronts and how they'll lead into the next season. Those being the North, the Lannisters at King's Landing, and Daenerys and her people coming in from Essos. I can easily say this has been the best season finale thus far. I felt this episode did a great job of bringing everything to a satisfying close, while at the same time setting things up to get me pumped for next season. For the most part, the show has followed a pretty standard formula of building things up throughout the whole season, all leading up to a large battle at the end, towards episode 8 or 9. If they continue with the same formula, I can easily see season 7 all about Daenerys making her presence in Westeros, most likely defeating the Lannisters at King's Landing and making alliances with the North. This would leave season 8 to be all about the war with the dead and the White Walkers. I wouldn't mind a switch up to the classic formula though. I can see it now. Season 7 premiere. Daenerys arrives at King's Landing and she starts a full-blown attack on it, completely sacking everything. That would be a hell of a way to start things off right. Alas, it's going to be a good while before we find out. In the meantime, let me know what you think. Leave your comments. Did you enjoy the season finale as much as I did? I've heard a couple complaints about people starting to not like it because it's becoming too predictable. I think it's not so much about things getting predictable, but instead that things are actually starting to turn in favor of the good guys. After them being stabbed, killed, murdered for such a long time, I guess it seems sort of weird to us. But I think from here on out, it's just inevitable, really. I mean, at the end of the day, we all know what the series is going to come down to. A giant war between the Night King and his army of the dead, and the men of Westeros. And unless the series has a totally tragic ending where the Night King wins, I mean, we all know it's basically going to happen. But we don't know how exactly we're going to get there, which I believe still leaves room for a lot of surprises, and I think people will start to turn around. Yeah, let me know what you think. See you next time. Bye.